Nobles in flowing robes sat in terraces along the walls, their jeweled eyes glittering as they watched. Armored guards stood rigid at the edges of the chamber, halberds of humming plasma in hand. At the center of this spectacle stood a single figure who seemed almost plain in comparison. Captain Elias Ward, Terran envoy. His navy blue uniform was sharp, but unadorned, his brown hair modest, his posture military straight. Against the sea of alien grandeur, his very normalcy was almost defiant. He had come here not to fight, but to speak. Yet already his words had drawn fire. Moments earlier, he had stated a truth so ordinary to humanity that he rarely even thought about it. Humans can reproduce year-round. But to the Zerathi, the revelation was nothing less than heresy. Their entire species bred only once every 4 years, during the solstice rains, when their world's moons aligned and their bodies responded to nature's ancient rhythm. Them, reproduction was not just a biological event. It was a sacred cycle, bound into their religion, their laws, even their identity. To claim that another species existed outside those cycles was to challenge the very laws of nature as they understood them. You dare mock us, human? The voice cut across the chamber like a blade. Princess Ariathil rose from her throne. She was tall, statuesque, her skin shimmering faintly like polished crystal beneath her silken garments of deep indigo. Atop her brow arched a crown of natural, crystalline horns catching the light in blinding prisms. Her eyes, pale as dawn, blazed with indignation. You expect me to believe such chaos exists within one species? She continued, her words echoing from the vaulted ceilings. Impossible! All life is bound by cycles. It is the law of nature. It is balance. Her statement was met with nods and murmurs of agreement from the nobles. Some whispered insults about Terrans, primitive, reckless, liars. Others laughed openly at the absurdity, but Elias did not shrink from her glare. He clasped his hands calmly behind his back and replied, his voice steady. With respect, Your Highness, humanity does not follow that law. We are not bound by seasons. Our ability to reproduce is constant, an adaptation that allowed us to survive the unpredictable terrors of Earth. Gasps filled the room. A scholar in emerald robes hissed, "Arrogance!" Another noble muttered, "He claims to live outside of nature itself." Arya's crystalline horns seemed to shimmer more brightly as her anger rose. "You're lying!" she declared, her voice thunderous. "Humans can't breed year-round. No creature could survive such unending madness." Her hand struck the armrest of her throne, and the chamber fell silent. Every eye fixed upon Elias, waiting for him to falter, but the human only gave a small, almost amused smile. "And yet, we do, Princess. It is not madness, it is resilience. We learned to endure because our world demanded it." The room erupted again, half in disbelief, half in fury. The guards shifted uncomfortably, as though expecting violence. Elias could feel the weight of alien eyes boring into him, hundreds, of beings eager to see him humbled. Arya stood now, tall and commanding, her silks flowing like molten light around her. She stepped down from her throne, her crystal shoes ringing against the polished floor as she approached him. "Then prove it, human," she said, her voice low and sharp, like the crack of a whip. The challenge hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. The court stilled to a breathless hush. Prove it. These were not words of idle curiosity. They were the binding demand of a princess whose authority could condemn or elevate entire worlds. Elias bowed his head slightly, acknowledging the weight of her command. He knew that this was no trivial debate. To fail would not simply mean embarrassment. It would mark humanity as liars in the eyes of the Galactic Compact. Their reputation as a newly rising species would collapse. "As you wish, Princess," he replied at last. His voice was calm, but within him burned the iron will of his kind. But proof may take time. A smile curved Arya's lips, cold and sharp as glass. Then time you shall have. Until you prove this outrageous claim, you will remain under the watch of my court. Elias Ward's world shrank into crystal walls and watchful eyes. The throne room had been only the beginning. Now the daily life of the Terran envoy was an endless test of patience and endurance. From the moment he awoke in the guest quarters, the Zerathi had graciously provided, to the moment he returned at night, there were always eyes on him. Guards shadowed his every step. Scholars followed, recording his words with quills that etched lines of light onto floating tablets. Even the servants who brought him meals lingered too long, staring at him as though waiting for some secret to slip free. Elias had known the Zerathi to be a proud species, but here in the Empire's capital, he was confronted with the full weight of their arrogance. To them, his claim was not merely unscientific, it was blasphemy. Reproduction was a sacred rhythm, their solstice rains celebrated with festivals and rites. The idea that another species could simply bypass such cosmic order was an affront to everything they believed. Every day, he was summoned to councils where lines of alien scholars demanded evidence. They demanded Terran medical data, genetic scans, historical accounts. Elias complied, sharing what he had access to: archived medical journals, images of Terran families, even embassy records showing human births across Earth's calendar months. But the aliens remained unmoved. A scholar named Zether hissed one afternoon, slamming a crystalline hand against the table. "Fabrications? Cleverly woven illusions to aggrandize your primitive species." Elias kept his voice calm, though his patience wore thin. "If we were going to lie, scholar, why would we choose something so easy to disprove? Invite your scientists to Earth. They'll find the truth in every hospital, every village, every family. It is not a boast, it is a fact." They refused. To leave their world and confront the truth directly would be to risk shattering their worldview. Instead, they circled like predators around the human, eager to catch him faltering. At the heart of it all was Princess Arya. She summoned Elias, almost daily, to her chamber of scholars, a domed hall lined with mirrors of crystal that magnified every sound. She was relentless. Her questions struck like blades, probing not only biology but culture, morality, philosophy. "How can your species endure such constant fertility?" she asked one evening, pacing before him, her silks dragging softly against the floor. "Would it not destroy your social order, overwhelm resources? Your kind should have drowned in your own numbers." Elias answered with the same composure he used in combat briefings. "Some did. Our history is filled with societies that struggled with balance, but survival shaped us. We learned to manage it, through medicine, through planning, through responsibility." "It's not chaos, Princess, it's resilience." Her pale eyes glinted, crystalline horns catching the light. "Or recklessness," she countered. He allowed himself the faintest smile. "Sometimes both. But tell me, if survival demanded it, would your people not find a way too?" For a heartbeat she hesitated, lips parting as if to answer. Then her mask of cold authority returned. "That is irrelevant. Nature dictates the law. You humans claim to live beyond it." Their exchanges became duels, his calm logic against her cutting skepticism. To the watching scholars, it was a battle of ideas. But to Elias, it felt like something more personal, more dangerous. Arya was not only trying to prove him wrong, she was testing him. At first, he thought she despised him. But over time, he caught glimpses beneath her mask. A flicker of curiosity in her eyes. A pause too long when he answered well. The faintest tremor of her lips when she suppressed a smile. She wanted to know the truth. Not because of duty, but because she could not help herself. Still, the pressure mounted. Rumors spread through the court like wildfire. The human envoy was a fraud, his people liars weaving stories to win influence in the compact. Some nobles whispered that Earth should be sanctioned, its voice silenced forever. Others wanted Elias, cast into the slave pits to pay for his insult to Zerathi pride. Elias knew time was running short. Proof in words and charts would never be enough. The Empire demanded something undeniable, something even their pride could not argue away. 1. Knight, staring out at the alien city's crystal spires from his balcony, he accepted what had to be done, a demonstration. Not just documents or recordings, but a living, undeniable truth shown before their very eyes. It would be risky, dangerous even, but humanity had never won by hiding. When Princess Arya summoned him again the next morning, Elias bowed and said, "Your Highness, I have heard your demand. The time for debate is over. If you want proof, then proof you shall have." Her eyes narrowed, suspicious but intrigued. "What are you planning, human?" Elias straightened, his voice iron. "A demonstration. One that will silence your doubts or condemn me forever." The news spread through the Zerathi capital like lightning. Word of the humans' audacity, the promise of a demonstration, rippled through the empire. By dawn, banners hung across crystalline streets, announcing that the alien would prove his impossible claim before the court and citizenry. For the Zerathi, it was more than spectacle. It was a trial of truth and humiliation. Either the human would fail, confirming their superiority, or he would succeed, and their worldview itself would fracture. The grand amphitheater had not been so full in centuries. Tens of thousands filled the seats carved into the sides of a colossal crystal dome, their jeweled eyes sparkling in anticipation. Nobles in ornate robes clustered together, scholars carried tablets of glowing light, and warriors stood at rigid attention. The atmosphere pulsed with excitement, curiosity, and hostility. At the center of the arena stood Elias Ward, clad once more in his Terran uniform, its simplicity striking against the opulence around him. He was not alone now. At his side stood a small team of Terran medical officers who had rushed to the capital at his urgent request. They carried cases of equipment, holoprojectors, biometric scanners, genetic archives, every tool needed to make the Zerathi face undeniable truth. High. Above, in her royal dais, Princess Arya watched with her usual crystalline poise. Yet her gaze lingered on Elias longer than she intended. He stood like a soldier about to walk into battle, his jaw set, his eyes calm. He does not fear us, she thought. He should, but he does not. The herald's voice boomed across the chamber. "Terran envoy Elias Ward, you stand before the Zerathi Empire, before Her Highness Princess Ariathil, before the eyes of thousands, to prove your claim. The accusation that humans defy nature's cycles and breed without season. Do you accept this trial?" "I do," Elias replied, his voice carrying with steady clarity. The crowd hissed, scoffed, laughed. Some shouted insults, others jeered. But Elias remained unshaken. He turned to his officers, who activated the holoprojectors. At once, light bloomed across the arena, painting the air with vivid images. Families of humans appeared, mothers holding infants swaddled in cloth, fathers laughing with toddlers, children playing in snow, in rain, in sunlit fields. "This," Elias began, gesturing toward the projection, "is the truth of humanity. Our people are born not in one season, but in all. Winter, spring, summer, autumn, every month, every cycle, life continues. Our fertility is not bound to the sky, nor the orbit of moons, nor the alignment of stars. We are constant. We are unbound." The projections shifted. A timeline of human births appeared, data scrolling with clear precision, birth records from across Earth's continents, Asia, Africa, the Americas, Europe, Oceania. Each line marked, with months, each month filled with life. The amphitheater fell quiet. The evidence was overwhelming. Still, the Zerathi were a stubborn people. A noble shouted from the stands, "Illusions, clever tricks!" Another hissed, "Fabricated!" Arya raised her hand, silencing them. Her voice cut sharp. "Human, words and numbers can be forged. Show us something undeniable." Elias nodded once. He had been waiting for this. He motioned to his medics, who wheeled forward a scanner. Its display flared to life, showing in real time the fertility markers of one of his officers, a woman named Dr. Imani. "This," Elias explained, "is no archive. This is live biological data. At this moment, on this day here in your capital, she is fertile. Tomorrow, another would be. Next week, another still. Always, there are those capable of bearing life." The display cycled through several human volunteers, men and women alike. The readings spoke clearly. Humans did not wait years for alignment. Their bodies were ever ready, ever adaptive. The silence that followed was absolute. The Zerathi scholars leaned forward, eyes wide, their crystalline pens frozen above their tablets. The crowd, once so loud, sat as though turned to stone. Finally, Elias turned to the princess herself. His voice was calm but edged with steel. "You see, princess, it is not chaos. It is life unbound. It is why we survived a world that tried endlessly to kill us. Where nature demanded limits, we broke them. Where others bowed to cycles, we endured. Humanity thrives because we are constant." For the first time, Princess Arya did not immediately reply. She stood in her dais, her crystalline horns catching the sunlight, her lips parted as though struggling for words. Her disbelief had faltered, replaced by something Elias could not yet name. Awe, perhaps, or fear. The amphitheater erupted. Some shouted denial, others gasped in wonder. The nobles argued. The scholars scribbled furiously. The priests whispered that humans might be a species beyond natural law. But through it all, Elias kept his gaze on the princess. He had proven his claim. The rest, their anger, their disbelief, their fear, no longer mattered. Humanity's truth was undeniable. And Princess Arya, though still cloaked in her regal composure, whispered to herself words no one else could hear. If this is true, then the galaxy has underestimated them all. The Chamber of Witnesses was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. A ring of translucent crystal rose around the perimeter, etched with glowing runes that shimmered in rhythm with the princess's heartbeat. The Veyari used such chambers for rituals, for truth-seeking, and for what they called challenges of claim. In this place, lies could not survive. Words uttered here were weighed not just by logic, but by resonance with the very currents of life. Princess Solari stood at the center, her violet robes flowing like liquid flame, her eyes fixed on Elias, with a mixture of suspicion and fascination. Around her, counselors and nobles gathered, their antennae twitching, mandibles clicking, or wings humming faintly depending on species. Every gaze burned with anticipation. The stakes had grown far, larger than anyone expected. It was no longer simply about whether humans could breed year-round. Solari had framed the question as a trial of truth, and now the chamber demanded an answer backed by living proof. "You will stand in the circle, human," the chamber keeper intoned, his voice deep and resonant. "Your claim will be measured against the currents. If you deceive, the chamber will know." Elias stepped forward. His boots echoed against the crystalline floor. He felt the energy wash over him, a humming in his bones, a pressure in his chest. It was as though the air itself probed his honesty. He glanced at Solari, and despite the challenge in her eyes, he caught a flicker of something else. Doubt, in her own certainty. Solari raised her chin. Human? I give you one chance to retract your outrageous claim. Admit that your species is no different from the rest. Admit that your excess is but a tale told to impress. Elias shook his head. Princess, if I were to lie, this chamber would tear the truth from me. I won't need to. Humanity has lived this reality since our beginning. We don't wait for seasons. We don't bow to cycles. Our will, our biology, and our drive don't pause. A murmur rippled through the nobles. Some looked shocked. Others, skeptical, a few intrigued. Solari gestured to the chamber keeper. Then prove it. Let this place test you. The keeper extended a clawed hand. A shimmering orb formed between his palms, pulling faint threads of light from Elias's body. The chamber amplified his biology, displaying it for all to see. Organs, hormones, reproductive signals, all flared in ethereal diagrams. The alien. Counselors leaned forward, many gasping. Elias heard whispers. Always active? Even in cold? In drought? Such waste, or such resilience. Solari's eyes narrowed. You could have engineered this human. Your kind is clever. Manipulative. Elias's jaw tightened. Princess, if you want further proof, I'll give it to you in terms you'll understand. Bring your scholars. Bring your physicians. Test me with your instruments. Test any human you like. The answer will never change. The orb pulsed brighter, confirming his honesty. The chamber vibrated with approval. The nobles stirred uneasily. Solari folded her arms. If this is true, then your kind is dangerous. A species without limitation in this matter. A species always multiplying, always pushing forward. Her voice trembled slightly. Such a race would never stagnate, never yield. Now, you understand, Elias replied softly. We grow in deserts, in tundras, on islands, in mountains. Our families endure, no matter the cost. You see danger, but it is also our greatest strength. It means we always have reason to fight for tomorrow. The chamber went utterly still. Solari's defiance cracked, if only for a heartbeat. Her people prided themselves on rigid cycles, ritual breeding seasons, regulated courtship. To them, reproduction was sacred, controlled, a ceremony dictated by tradition. To hear that humans walked a path of constant potential was like gazing into chaos. And yet, it stirred awe as much as fear. Perhaps you believe your words, Solari said finally, voice softer now. But belief is not enough for me. I am not satisfied. She stepped closer, her golden crown glinting under the chamber light. I will not rest until I see it for myself. Not in glowing diagrams, not in abstract proof. No, human. You will show me what it means. The chamber erupted with gasps and chatter. Some nobles recoiled in scandal, others leaned forward eagerly. The keeper hissed for silence, but the tension lingered like a storm about to break. Elias met her gaze, steady and unflinching. He understood then. This was no longer about a debate of biology. Solari was challenging him personally, demanding a truth that would shake not only her understanding, but her entire empires. He drew a breath. Then, Princess, you'd better prepare yourself, because when humans prove something, we don't hold back. The chamber dissolved into chaos after Elias's defiant words. The nobles hissed, muttered, and flared their wings or frills in outrage. The counselors demanded silence, their voices cracking like thunder, but the chamber pulsed with raw tension. Some shouted that the human must be expelled. Others whispered of opportunity. For every voice of fear, there was one of awe. And in the center of it all stood Princess Solari, rigid, regal, but visibly torn. Her entire upbringing, her entire empire, was founded on the rhythms of season and cycle, a race that could reproduce, And thrive without such limitations was not just alien to her, it was dangerous. Dangerous because it meant unpredictability. It meant expansion without end. It meant freedom. She stepped closer to Elias, her voice low but carrying across the crystalline arena. Human, do you understand what you are asking of me? If I acknowledge your words, if I admit before this chamber that your species possesses such a trait, it will shake the order of my people. They will see you as a threat. Elias met her gaze without flinching. And if you deny it, Princess, you'll be lying to yourself. The chamber already confirmed the truth. It's not my claim. Anymore, it's your choice whether to accept it. The chamber keeper rumbled with authority. The truth has been weighed. The resonance speaks. The human has not lied. Gasps rippled through the nobles again. Solari's fingers tightened around the folds of her robe. Her entire court was watching, expecting her to dismiss or condemn him. But something in Elias's eyes rooted her in place, something steady, unyielding, but not cruel. Why? She asked suddenly, her tone shifting from accusation to genuine curiosity. Why fight so hard to prove this? What does it matter to you if we believe? Elias inhaled slowly. This was the moment. He could feel it. Because, he said, voice carrying, this is who we are. Humanity has always survived because we never stop. We endure winters. We endure famine. We endure war. And even in the worst of times, there are always new voices born among us, always a reason to push forward. If you want to know why humans reach the stars, why we don't quit even when everything is against us, it's because our will to live doesn't have an off-season. The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting. Solari stared at him, lips slightly parted, her chest rising and falling with emotion she couldn't suppress. Around them, even the most hardened nobles had no rebuttal, for in their eyes, they saw the living embodiment of his words, a lone human standing unbowed in the heart of their empire, facing judgment with nothing but truth and defiance. Finally, Solari lifted her chin. Very well, human. You have proven your words to the chamber, but I will go further than acknowledgement. She turned to the counselors, her voice ringing with regal authority. Let it be recorded. The species known as humanity bears no seasonal chains. They live, they breed, they endure, unceasing. They are a force not to be measured by our traditions, but by their own relentless will. The nobles erupted again, but this time the tide was different. Some were outraged, yes, but many nodded in grudging respect. A few even bowed slightly toward Elias. What was once seen as arrogance was now undeniable truth. Elias exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. He had won. Not with weapons, not with threats, but with honesty and proof. And yet, as his eyes met Solari's, he realized something had shifted between them. She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. You've left me no choice but to see your people differently. You've shown me danger, yes, but also strength I can't ignore. Her golden eyes searched his, and for the first time, she smiled. Not mockery, not challenge, but something far more dangerous. Admiration. Perhaps one day, human, I will demand you show me, personally. Elias swallowed, keeping his composure. Though his heart pounded, he had come to prove humanity's nature, and he had. But he hadn't expected to spark something else, an intrigue in the princess herself, a thread that could one day entwine their peoples in ways no council chamber could predict. The keeper raised his staff, sealing the trial. The claim has been proven. Humanity stands as it declares, boundless. As the nobles departed in restless waves of chatter, Elias and Solari remained at the center for a heartbeat longer. Two figures, alien to one another, yet united by the weight of truth. Humanity had earned its place in the eyes of the Empire, not by conquest, but by the simple, unshakable fact of who they were. And deep in Solari's chest, alongside awe and unease, burned a spark of curiosity she could no longer deny.